I'm Mike, and today I have a lot to say about this video. Want to save animal lives without going veg? Eat beef, not chicken. The video spotlights longtime vegan animal rights activist Matt Ball, whose main angle is that vegans telling people to go vegan has failed, and that since it takes 200 chickens to make as much meat as one steer, that we should just be telling people to switch out their chicken flesh for bovine flesh, and that way less animals will die in food production, and according to him, there will be less factory farming.
Rather than just pushing veganism, we should take the opportunity that people have to take one step that will have a profound impact on the number of animals suffering. If they cut out eating chickens, they will remove the vast majority of their support for factory farms.
There happen to be many reasons that I disagree with this strategy. Well, it might look good on paper. Vegan advocacy is a sociological puzzle. You can tell people to make a change that sounds good in theory, but how will they actually react? It's my personal opinion, and we obviously don't have any numbers or research on this particular strategy, but that we might be taking someone that's actually thinking about going vegetarian or vegan and making them really feel good about not doing it. Because if switch to beef is presented as a viable alternative to going vegan, it could have the exact opposite effect and prevent the saving of animals. Oh, so you want to save some animals? Have you tried going switching to beef? So I would have to rate this strategy as level 10 pushover vegan, and not just for people who are thinking about going vegan or vegetarian, but for your run-of-the-mill meat eater. This is finally that vegan stamp of approval saying that it's okay to eat meat. In fact, that meat eating is the solution. And it's really interesting to think about why this video has been trending for the last couple days. It'll probably hit 1 million views about 4 days after it was released. And yeah, vegans left their mark in the like to dislike ratio. And I believe that this video has been so widely shared precisely because it plays into the whole good news about your bad habits machine of continual content, reassuring people that it's totally fine to eat animals. You hardly have to change at all. Just keep killing and eating animals. Just kill and eat bigger ones. It's a math thing. So this brings me to an interesting question. He's obviously coming from the right place. He's trying to save animals. So why has he resorted to this thing that's sort of below reducitarianism? You could call it like switchitarianism.
Because we know, just by looking at the graphs, just by looking at the numbers, that we have been failures at this so far. This is after decades of advocacy. Peter Singer's book, Animal Liberation, came out in the 1970s.
He thinks that vegans have failed to save animals by telling people to go vegan. Why? Another omnivore favorite, that vegans are too mean, they're just too extreme, like how Anthony Bourdain called us Hezbollah, and also Furious Pete called us ISIS.
Everyone has met a vegan who has been rude to them, or who has been, outrageous or just angry or yelling at them. We are driving people away. We are driving people back to eating meat.
As I mentioned in my Why People Need to Hate Vegans video, this is only partly actually vegan behavior and largely just a derailing tactic. If you have 99 vegans that are nice and one vegan that's mean, you're just gonna have everybody pointing to that one vegan and using that as an excuse to ignore everyone, to ignore the vegan message. We also don't know for sure how people are gonna react to a given vegan behavior. Most people think that it's way too insensitive for vegans to compare factory farming to the Holocaust, but the vegan boom in Israel has been widely attributed to Gary Yourofsky's use of that particular analogy, so one person's mean can be another person's epiphany. No, I'm not saying that you should be an insensitive vegan, but moving on, he points to how we were failing in terms of numbers. We haven't increased the number of vegetarians and vegans for a while, according to him.
Around 2% of people are true vegetarians, and about 0.5% of the people in the United States are vegan.
Is this really the case? Are we really failing here? He didn't cite any particular source, but I believe he is referring to this survey, which is nearly a decade old. But from a newer survey from the UK, in the last 10 years, veganism has seen a 350% rise over that period, and it's mostly young people. Millennials are turning out to be super vegan. In fact, about 42% of all vegans in that survey were between ages 15 and 34. but only 14% were over the age of 65. What's the main difference? Social media. Young people use social media, like what's happening right now, here, YouTube. He then goes on to mention that Faunalytics survey about vegans failing, saying that a lot of vegans couldn't maintain their diet because
they can't stand the pressure to maintain a pure diet.
Pure? I think that vegan food has come a long way since Peter Singer wrote his book in the 70s. I mean, many people actually think the Impossible Veggie Burger is real meat when they try it.
Very well-known figure that I just heard about yesterday found some sitting on her kitchen counter and scarfed them down and thought she'd been eating meat until she was informed that wow, it's something else.
So if you really believe it is a purity thing, then a type of activism could be getting these products everywhere, widely available. So even under his framework, there are plenty of other options for vegan activism that don't involve encouraging the continued consumption of animals. Another relevant figure from the Faunalytics survey that he didn't mention was that of former veggie people, about 37% of them want to get back on the diet. But telling people to eat beef is not going to get them back on the wagon. And there would be a ton of negative impacts from increasing beef consumption. People don't realize it, but the majority of cattle are sent to feedlots for the last few months of their lives. They can be grass-fed at a feedlot. This is all factory farming. Yeah, chicken factory farms might shrink, but our feedlots would grow and we would have a significantly increased demand for crop production. Why? Because it takes approximately 4 times as much feed to produce 1 pound of beef as it does to produce 1 pound of chicken. Now, I'm not saying that we should eat chicken here. I'm saying that we should eat neither. But it is worth noting that switching from chicken to beef would mean that we would need to replace 100 billion kilograms of chicken worldwide per year. Since we currently consume about 58 billion kilograms of beef, aka bovine flesh, per year, that means that we would need to nearly triple our cattle population to meet the demands of chicken plus beef, all as beef. So instead of needing about 200 billion kilograms of feed to produce that chicken that we have now, we would need about 800 billion kilograms of feed, and that is going to put a massive strain on our resources. Producing beef is extremely resource intensive, which is why the movie Before the Flood by Leonardo DiCaprio's conclusion was the exact opposite, to actually switch from beef to chicken, which is another pushover vegan strategy that I personally do not condone. But let's go point by point environmentally. Okay, the Amazon, currently cattle is responsible for 70% according to the World Bank, 80% according to Greenpeace. So tripling our cattle population would mean doubling our rainforest destruction. And since we're trying to save animal lives here, you can't forget that the Amazon is an absolute hotbed for biodiversity. As for land use, livestock currently occupy 30% of our ice-free land. I think it's fair to say that cattle are responsible for about 20 to 25%, so we're supposed to boost that up to 60 to 75% of our ice-free land used to raise cattle. How about water? Remember, we're talking about a tripling in cattle population, and livestock already uses 1/3 of the world's fresh water, the lion's share of which, again, goes to cattle production. So we're talking about the majority of the world's fresh water being used to make meat. And what might be the worst of all greenhouse gas emissions, depending on which report you look at, whether it's one of the FAO's reports or the Worldwatch report, we're looking at about a 20 to 80% increase in greenhouse gas emissions for the entire Earth. Thankfully, people understand this, and the environmental comments were the top comments under the video. Good job. In the end, I don't think this strategy will result in more people eating less chicken and more beef, which I have shown has its own huge set of negative impacts. I think it's just gonna make meat eaters feel a little bit better the next time they eat a steak. And don't get me wrong, I might dislike his ideas, but I definitely don't dislike this guy. I think he's just been sort of beaten down by a lack of receptivity for being an animal rights activist that's appealing to ethics, and maybe he's just gotten a little bit in his head too much about this idea and not thought about the real world consequences. So vegan activists, don't tell people to eat beef instead of chicken. Keep telling people to go vegan, but do everything you can to make it easier to go vegan. If you don't think that this ethical aspect has been working over the last 45 years or so, then try other approaches. Use social media for sure, use the health aspect, and don't forget to cite your sources. All right, that's it for today, but seriously, let me know down below what you think the best strategy for saving animal lives is, and maybe if you found any flaws in my criticism of that dude's strategy. All right, feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.